Alrighty guys, welcome to the show. I hope you are well. Today's topic is pretty much going to be focusing on training volume and what my experiences have been and my kind of controversial opinion on how often you should be training. Now, I'm a big believer that overtraining is essentially a piece of nonsense. Overtraining to me is more best characterized by irresponsible training. I think that there is no such thing as too much training, and that thought for me has come from a number of experiences that I've had in my life and kind of a number of philosophies that I believe in. I do believe there is definitely such thing as irresponsible training, and often irresponsible training comes in the form of too much volume in an irresponsible fashion. And I think that that is first and foremost what people need to understand. So to give some grounding on that, to train heavy every day is something that not many people can do. What is considered heavy for one person certainly wouldn't necessarily be considered heavy for another person who has conditioning. And obviously, I'm talking specifically about the world of arm wrestling here as well. So, I spent the first 5 years of my arm wrestling journey essentially training table time every day. Now, people will often say to me, "How on earth do you do that?" I did 3.5 years of probably 6 days a week table time for about 1.5 to 2 hours per day. And it obviously, the effort was quite high too. But the thing was, it is intelligent table time. It wasn't thrashing around, side pressure, going for pins like a lot of people's table time is. But that aside, what I wanted to talk about is the concept of my first experience as when I finished high school. My first job was to be a brickies labourer. I was 18 years old. I'd just finished high school, and I became a brickies labourer for a mate of mine whose dad owned a building company. And look, the first week of that was the most painful week I've ever been through in terms of delayed onset muscle soreness. I have never, ever in my life experienced more delayed onset muscle soreness than that first week of being a labourer, moving bricks and cement back and forth continuously all day long. So, you know what? If you equate that first week of being a brickies labourer to training heavy in the gym and feeling sore, the brickies labourer was harder. That was a harder week than I've ever had in the gym in terms of soreness. But I didn't have the luxury of calling my boss up on Monday after the weekend and saying, hey boss, I appreciate the fact that this whole job thing exists and that, but I'm really sore, so I'm going to have a week off or at least 3 days off rest before I hit this muscle group again. Of course, that would be the fastest way to lose your job and the fastest way to say, well, thanks very much for coming. No, what do? In reality, you man up, you get to the job site and you work your ass off again. You make sure you don't get injured, you do everything safe within your capabilities, but you still have to put a maximum effort in, otherwise you're going to lose your job. Now, what interestingly happens is after about 2 to 3 weeks of doing that, your body learns to sort itself out. And your body says, hey, actually, I can handle this. And you subsequently get conditioned and a strength comes that isn't a typical strength. It's a real practical strength that is something that is actually worth something in a real sense. You start getting conditioned to it. Your hands get thicker and stronger. Your tendons get conditioned. And the soreness disappears. We all know what it is. It's real. It's old man strength sometimes. It's farmer strength. It's real strength. Okay, it's not pretend gym strength where sure you've got big muscles and you can move something well, but you have to have a week off in between doing it. So that was one of the first experiences in my life that has set me in the mindset that training every day heavy is fine. You just have to make sure you don't injure yourself. Now, as you get more experience with any given movement, you're going to learn your limitations. You're going to learn how far you can push without injuring yourself. Will you injure yourself? Yes. You'll have niggling injuries, niggling pain. Will you need to rehab it? Yes. Does it mean you can't train heavy around it? No. Okay, you can always train heavy. Always do your best to avoid injury, but you can always train heavy. Today's heavy might be 100 pounds, tomorrow's heavy might be 90 pounds, but it's still a heavy effort. Now, the other thing that I like to talk about, and it's one that whenever somebody debates me on this that says, nah, it's not the most efficient way to get to the ultimate level of strength for your genetic potential, I call bull on that. And the reason I say that is I like to come up with this analogy. I read this in an article years ago, and it said if your family was taken hostage and you were given 12 months to develop a squat of 300 kilos, and you'd never squat before in your life, how often, and you only had 12 months to do it, otherwise your family are going to be murdered. How often would you squat? Would you squat once every 3 days, once every 5 days, like the typical gym goers might recommend, and the people who are so worried about overtraining might recommend? No, you bloody wouldn't, would you? You would quit your day job and you would squat every single hour of the day. If you weren't squatting heavy, you'd be going through the movement. You'd be squatting heavy in the morning, you'd be squatting light for rehab up until lunch, and then you'd have maybe an hour off, and then you'd be hitting the gym again, squatting some more, going light back up, and you'd probably be ending with another heavy session in the afternoon. You'd be dreaming squats, you'd be thinking squats, you'd be going through the movement of squats every single moment that you possibly could. Because ultimately that would end up being, as you know it to be true, that would end up giving you the best chance of getting that 300 kilo squat by the end of the year. You would need to do as many squats as possible, move as much weight as possible combined in that year without getting injured. So that answer right there for me is everything that I need to know and everything I need to believe, that the best answer to getting strong in the shortest amount of time is to train as heavy as you can in terms of your overall effort without getting injured. And that has always been the approach that I've done. I know a lot of people have seen my high reps, high volume, or like ultra high reps and volume. That is my way. The ultra high reps is a way of going heavy on your effort without injuring yourself. At the moment, I'm in a phase where I'm loving actually doing five sets of 5 on really heavy weights. But you know what happens for the rest of the day is I continue my heavy effort through doing lots of reps of safe weights. So anyway, that's my opinion on it. I don't believe there is such a thing as too much heavy training. There's irresponsible training, and then there's safe training. But if you're in the category of safe training, you can go heavy as much as you want, and I believe someone who's done that will probably, I'm pretty certain of it, end up being a lot stronger than the person who's doing it every 3 to 5 days, hitting a certain muscle group. Anyway, guys, that's my thought on the whole overtraining issue, and is it really an issue or not? Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Cheers, guys.